Another episode of With the Chiefs.
Wait. Man, I need more rest.
I hope I've got your last name right there.
It's a very good pronunciation.
You should know better than that now, Dom.
I know.
Alright, I'm just going to kick off. Make sure it's going. Alright, welcome back to another episode of With the Chiefs. Today we're joined by Jonathan Muncey, a member of Delta Running Project. Jono has impressive personal bests of 15:18 for the 5K, 31:45 for the 10, 1:10:11 for the half, and a recent marathon PB of 2:27:55 at Ballarat Marathon. In this episode, we're going to recap Jono's race, also touch on our own recent races, because it's been a little bit since we've done an episode. Dom ran 1:15 flat.
1:15 and 1 second.
And 1 second, okay.
1 second.
All right.
1 second.
And you finished second place, so another second place, like UTA.
Yeah.
Oh no, fifth place at UTA.
Fifth place UTA.
Yeah,
Bondi only.
Bondi only, that's it. So yeah, thanks for joining, Jono.
Yeah, thanks.
Second time on the show.
It's quick. Didn't expect to be invited back so quickly, so thank you. Yeah.
I guess we can start off with a bit of a training update. Not a lot has obviously gone on for us too this week, but yeah, what have you been up to this week? How are you feeling after the race?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to report this week either. I kind of just decided to take basically the week off, at least running wise. I kind of pulled up okay off the back of the race, feeling okay in the legs, but I just sort of thought, let's have a bit of a reset, and so didn't run for 6-7 days, ran for the first time this morning, 7 days later. And yeah, got into the gym twice, and then first run this morning, and so two gym sessions. Decided to just get back straight back into that because I hadn't done much gym the week leading into the race, to sort of taper off, and so was keen to get back to a few lifts.
Heavy?
Yeah, I went a bit heavier yesterday than I usually would, and I'll probably do that for a couple weeks while the running training load is not as heavy. So a good opportunity to kind of push a little bit harder in the gym, whereas usually in the gym I'm kind of, it's a bit more maintenance.
Yeah.
It's a bit more just trying to kind of injury prevention, go through the sort of lifts and exercises that I want to do to feel good, feel strong, but not really try to push it too far in terms of lifting too heavy. Whereas I think next couple of weeks, good opportunity to just reinforce the strength and put a couple extra plates on. And see how I pull up.
Do you like gym work, lifting a bit heavier?
Yeah, I really like gym work. And yeah, before sort of getting into a more dedicated running space, I had a few years there where I was doing like nothing serious in the gym, but I was deliberately trying to, improve my personal best in terms of lifting with the big compound lifts. So predominantly sort of the deadlift, the squat, the bench press, sort of trying to make good progress in all of those and just put on a bit of muscle. So I was sort of doing that for a good few years before kind of right up until COVID really. And that pushed me. I think I was saying last episode, COVID was the sort of impetus for me to decide to give running a sort of dedicated go. And so before that, I had been doing a mix of, I've always loved running, and so definitely jogging every now and again, but probably not more on average than once or twice a week. And then, a good few gym sessions a week, and I was doing things like playing basketball with my mates that I'd played in a local comp for years and years, and that sort of thing. So mix of sports, love my tennis, other sports.
Tennis is good.
Yeah, love tennis.
It's very
so
frustrating.
Much fun, isn't it? Yeah, frustrating sport. Yeah, exactly.
It's like golf in a way.
Yeah. But as it like being more serious about the running these days, I still love incorporating gym, and certainly don't lift anywhere near as heavy as I sort of did for a period there. But I do like trying to push the dial a little bit when I get the opportunity. But so I was doing a bit of that yesterday.
Yeah. How was the DOMS compared to other marathons?
I reckon not too bad, and each marathon just seems to, the body's getting more used to it. I suppose I'm teaching my body to expect marathons in the training load. That's a requirement. So get used to it. Got to get on board. And so, and also I've done 3 marathons now in the past sort of like 9 months. With Sydney, Hobart, Cadbury in January this year, and then Ballarat just gone. So that's each of them was about 4 months apart, and so it's sort of, I feel like there's a lot of muscle memory there, and so each one I just feel like I'm bouncing back better, and the muscle, it's not as nowhere near as big of an impact on the muscles. And I remember a couple of the early marathons that I did, that was marathon number 7 just gone, and I remember that feeling early on of some of the first couple marathons, and just the DOMs just feeling like it was with you for weeks after the race. Whereas I was kind of like, trotting downstairs a few days later, no problem, carrying my son, like no issues. So I just decided, like I said, to take a good few days off running, really just more of a sort of mental reset, chance to reflect and enjoy what I'd done at Ballarat, and just give it a bit of space before getting back into the usual routine. So but the body feels good. It's just deliberately setting a bit aside a bit of time before getting back into the usual routine.
Sounds good. What about you, Dom? What's been happening last week? Because your race was 3 weeks.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Easter. So we did the race, and then we went down to Melbourne. And I guess it was a good opportunity to kind of chill out and just take it all in. I felt like after the training block I needed a bit of a break. So we were down there, we went watched the surfing at Bells Beach.
Oh, cool.
Which is really cool. And then we drove the Great Ocean Road, went to the 12 Apostles and all of that, which is awesome. I don't know, if you haven't been there, I would definitely recommend it. And then this week was just kind of putting a bit more emphasis on the gym. So I've been to the gym 3 times this week, and the next race I'm going to do is a trail race. So I've been getting on the Stairmaster as well.
Oh, very nice.
You're a big fan of the Stairmaster.
I think it's a good place to come from, trying to get strong before getting back into the mileage. So been doing mostly a bit of that, bit of core stuff, and just trying to get strong and ready to ramp up again.
Okay.
What about you?
Me? I think I pulled up okay. The first few days were pretty rough. I still got that really intense DOMs.
Quads mostly?
Quads. But I think similar to what you're saying, Jono, it's you get used to it a little bit more. But still, I ran on Friday for the first time, so I had a good amount of time off, and then I was still quite sore. Even my Achilles was a bit sore, but I think it's just general soreness, from also not doing anything. You just felt a bit rusty not doing anything for so long as well, if you're used to running most days. And then I ran Saturday 60 minutes, a little bit faster. Tobias likes always keeping the Ks at an honest pace, so that was okay. And then today got out on the trails, went out to Glenbrook. I forget the trail name, but it's all paved now. It wasn't last year. It's paved the whole way through. It's just a road. But that was good. Just
how long was that this morning?
That was 2 hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was it was quite relaxed in terms of pace, so that was okay. But definitely still towards the back end of that feeling sore. But I think I pulled up okay, which is good.
2 hours 1 week later. That's doing
yeah.
But it wasn't an all-out effort for you though, or
for
the marathon.
It was probably not like I've raced the last 2 marathons. It was kind of went out at a pace that I knew that was manageable, and it was probably not all out, I would say, but still I think I'll go into it, but still it's tough no matter what. That last 10k is crazy tough, but I think because I haven't gone out and raced it. Like, if I tried to go out at like 240 pace or wherever I thought the absolute limit was, I probably would have pulled up a lot worse. Yeah. But yeah, keen to. I'm not sure if I'll do. When are you gonna go back to session? Do you think?
Yeah, I'm just deciding at the moment whether I'm going to do any session at all before Sydney 10, or
Yeah,
whether
okay.
literally I will
Just
do a bit of jogging and
Yeah.
just launch into Sydney 10 in 2 weeks' time from now, so 3 weeks post race.
Okay.
I'm sort of tossing it up. I may do a session, say the Tuesday leading into that race, or yeah,
Yeah,
or I might wing
just
it.
wing it and yeah.
Because I'd entered Sydney 10 a while ago, and the plan was to just give it a good go if I bounce back off Ballarat feeling okay, but mentally at least leaving it open to just decide closer to the date how I should approach it, whether it should be like a proper go at a PB over 10, or whether it should just be, just run it for fun and social, whatever. So still yet to be decided exactly, but yeah, definitely no session. Obviously I ran for the first time today, so nothing this week, and then next week I definitely won't do a session. I will do some jogging throughout the week, a decent bit, but maybe every second day or something like that. And then the week after would either be a session there, or depending on at least 2 full weeks of no session.
That makes sense.
This time around, and that's partly because I kind of did a pretty quick turnaround off Cadbury into the start of the Ballarat block. And so I didn't do much of a break there, and so this time around I'm more keen to
reset.
Have a more of an honest reset and deliberately let the mileage go down for just a little bit, and certainly intensity as well. So yet to be fully decided, but at least 2 weeks before any session.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of tricky racing like close together like that. Like
I
I guess typically you'd be sharpening now, which is probably like the most risky stuff to do. That off the back of a marathon.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my thought. Like I want to do Sydney 10 because it's such a great race. It's probably best opportunity when you live in Sydney for a 10k PB on the roads, or at least a best attempt at one, or a good effort on over 10k. But it did fall at an awkward time 3 weeks post marathon, and so that's why I'm still a bit unsure of what the approach will be on the day. And I'm very cautious in this post-marathon phase of the injury risk. I think in the 1 or 2 injuries that I've had over these last couple of years of being a semi-dedicated runner, I think both of them have really surfaced not respecting the intensity of a race and trying to get straight back into a session too quickly. Mentally, I'm always really cautious of that post-race phase. Because that's where I've done like the hammy or something like that.
It's tempting because you're carrying a lot of fitness. You kind of just want to turn, especially if you've had a good race, you kind of want to be like, wow, if I can just recover, go out and put another effort in. But I think it's when you're at risk big time. Because Dom, I remember you ran a Sydney 10, after Canberra, you ran 10k. And you ran well, but I think then you pulled up injured with your planner.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So like I did Canberra, this is like the first marathon I ever did.
Yeah.
And then did Sydney 10 as well. But jumped in and trained too quickly, and I guess it was like just that sharpening, kind of really trying to do some 10k sort of stuff. And then I got to the race and ran the race well and ran a PB, which was great. But then like afterwards I was like, oh, my foot feels a bit sore and got plantar fasciitis. So it's definitely like a risky period.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a tough one to answer though. Like, I guess it's all pretty individual. Depends how you're going.
Yeah, I know. None of us exactly have the crystal ball, do we, as to what's going to be that factor that pushes you over the line injury-wise. And all they think about is that, how annoyed will I be if I retrospectively look back and think I should not have pushed that hard post race. And so that mentality gives me a reason to just be a little bit cautious in these periods because of the history. That's really the only time I've been susceptible to the injury is those post race phases. So tells me I need to take that seriously.
Yeah. It's always tempting.
Yeah.
Dom, you put it open. You might have to check the questions, but I think we just wanted to. I know we touched on it briefly in the last episode that we did, but maybe if you just go a little bit into your background, like I know you mentioned you were a bit of a COVID, you started running during COVID. Yeah, how did that come about, and what was the mindset behind it?
Yeah, well, running's always been a part of my life, just to varying degrees, I suppose. And so as a kid, I kind of fell in love with running, year 3 cross country, first ever time doing any sort of distance running. And I kind of just naturally took to it, both in terms of, it agreed with me. I felt good doing it. I wasn't struggling straight away like a lot of people do when they try and, run continuously, but also just mentally, it just seemed to agree with me in a sort of mental sense as well. Like felt refreshing. It felt, I liked what I got back from it feeling wise. And so, from year 3, so what are you then? You're like 9 years old. And I just sort of loved it ever since that first time, and then ended up doing a lot of sort of school cross country and athletics all throughout my schooling, but like among a bunch of other sports. And so always played a lot of soccer, cricket, tennis, in particular growing up. Ended up playing a lot of European handball of all things.
European handball.
In high school. Fun. Yeah, I went to a high school that just happened to have a particular family who were really, really involved in European handball in Australia. Like, not a big sport in Australia, but this particular family was single-handedly almost putting a European handball on the map in Australia. They were kind of getting it into the school systems. There was like 4 kids in this family, and they were all playing at an extremely high level, and they went to my high school. And one of the kids was in the grade above me, and he was recruiting anyone who was semi-athletic to sort of give it a go and get onto the team. And because it was such a small sport in Australia, I kind of progressed really quickly with it, and there's not a lot of people playing with it. I ended up playing on like the Australian youth team for literally just for one tour to New Zealand. So I played on the state team first for New South Wales. Then I somehow found myself on the Australian like youth team for Euro handball, all within the space of a few years. So just I never really did much with it beyond that. I did that one tour to New Zealand, and then I continued to play while I was in high school. But then, I was playing sort of outside of school with a club and things like that. But then kind of gave it up by the end of high school. It was just one of many sports really. Even though I had kind of progressed with that sport a lot, it was more a reflection of the size of the sport in the country that had allowed me to sort of progress so far, not because of any real genuine skill in this sport. Sure, I was athletic and decent, and I'm a lefty as well, which actually you do need a couple lefties on every Euro handball team, or it makes a really big difference if you've got a couple lefties, because you attack the goal from one side, and that's a really odd angle for a right-handed person to be trying to attack the goal from the right-hand side of the court, because it cuts off your angle. So you need to be able to stretch your arm around, do a big swinging motion, and loop around into the goal like that, as if you're, almost like a frisbee, like you're swinging right around. So that helped as well. But anyway, all of that to say that there's just always been a lot of different sports in my life, but running has sort of just been one of them. feel like that was a really long tangent. Anyway,
I wish I knew the rules. I don't even know. I've never played. Have you played?
You should watch it at the Olympic. It's an awesome sport to watch at like Olympic level. It's so fast. It's like basketball. It looks like a bit like basketball because they do bounce it along the court, but there's a lot more passing, and then it moves a lot in waves, backwards and forwards around sort of an arc, and then eventually someone shoots over defenders into a goal. Looks like you're on an indoor futsal or indoor soccer sort of court, and you've got a goalie, but instead of kicking it, you're throwing it. So it's a funny mix of like indoor soccer and basketball almost.
Do you have to shoot from outside the arc?
Yes, that's right. Can't go. There's like a 6 meter arc around the goal from the goal line. Can't go inside that. So you can take up to 3 steps in your handball. So you one more than you can in basketball, and so you little run up, try and jump over or to the side of defenders, sort of pivot in between them, find a gap, shoot into the goal. So it's a really fun sport. And athletic, fast-paced one as well. So it's awesome sport. But anyway, all of that to say, there's a lot of sport going on. It's just been present in my life, and running was something that I naturally took to.
Were you in the cross country in the early days? Were you good? Like, how did you perform?
I was decent. In primary school, I'd win the school level, and I'd place okay at like zone and progress through to regional areas, whatever you call it. In high school, I made it through to sort of state level once or twice, and maybe finished in the top 20-25 at state level in my age group. So never right up the top at that sort of state level, and definitely never made it to nationals. Did have a couple guys my age group in high school who were also good runners, and so it just meant that we progressed. We did progress really well as a team, where you get that team scoring system in high school, and so because we had a couple good runners all in the same age group, we ended up I think once or twice getting like a gold and a bronze as a team. So none of us won state, but we might place 10th, 15th, 20th, 24th, and then that's like the best combined total. So did reasonably well without being a standout, if that makes sense. And so and I've never left running completely, but by the end of high school, sort of just wasn't any particular priority because the cross-country system and athletics through school had all fallen away. And so I think early on in uni, I decided to go and do like one version of the uni games, and I might have ran a 10K on the track at uni games in my first or second year, which did not go very well.
10K on the track's pretty rough.
It's a rough,
It's the worst.
Yeah. And I certainly did not do any decent training for that at all. And it was up on the Gold Coast in the heat, and I DNF'd that race actually because I'm kind of bad with transitioning to heat, and so I'd been training during the winter, and then uni games in Gold Coast sort of in that early spring. It was really hot. My nose started just bleeding halfway through the race. I can be susceptible to sort of that change in temperature. And it just did not agree with me. Got halfway through the race and suddenly just felt like something's running down my face, and I realized my nose had just went. And it was just blood coming down. So I decided I was not going to attempt to put up with that for another 6K probably.
It's where they put it on in the middle of the day as well. It's the worst time to have a 10K.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was my one sort of encounter with athletics during the uni years. And then more or less didn't do anything running wise other than just casually for my own bit of fitness mixed in with a bit of gym and basketball with friends, other sports. And
just jogging.
Yeah, just would have been jogging for a few years, maybe turning up to city to surf with my family, once or twice in those years. And just running pretty casually for my own sort of fitness, but without a lot of intentionality there, really just being a part of a bigger picture of fitness with, bit of running, bit of gym, playing basketball, playing tennis, whatever. And so and then I suppose that brings us back up to what I introduced last episode, which was, then COVID eventually hit, and I've explained that part of the story, which is a lot of the things that I was doing at that point in time had, they had to be paused. Gym, couldn't go to the gym. The basketball comp I was playing in at the time, that paused for a long while. Can't compete, can't turn up and play basketball with people because of COVID, and so running was sort of the only thing left. And I think I had it in my mind, probably floating around in the back of my mind, that I'd love to kind of give running a serious go at some point, given there was some history in the school years and earlier on in my life. And so just kind of created the circumstances that allowed me to, give it a dedicated go, give it a real go. And so that's what I've been doing now the last, I suppose, 5 years since COVID. And, when COVID hit, by that time I'd also become a parent in 2018. My oldest son was born in 2018. And so by that stage, I feel like, your life patterns change a little bit, and running does kind of suit a fairly structured life. You can build running into a routine, and when you've got young kids, your life is very routine focused, and so it can, while time is a struggle to fit everything in, sure, it's just another part of your routine, and it can be compatible, I find, in some ways, even though that sounds a bit counterintuitive in some ways. For me at least, I don't know.
How do you sort of manage that? Like, obviously, was there an adjustment period at first? You're just figuring out the best time to run, that sort of thing. How do you manage that?
It's a lot of give and take with working out what works for the family, and what's a good balance between carving out a bit of time to train, running, gym, races, but making sure that it's not making, my wife or my kids, it's not too significantly impacting what they want to do, what we want to do as a family. And so for the most part, it means that a lot of my training is done sort of in the early hours of the morning before my wife and kids wake up. And so a big part of my running has always been in that sort of 5 to 6:30 a.m. window, somewhere in there, where I might get the main run out of the way in those early hours, and my kids might be waking up hopefully around 6:37 when I'm, by the time I'm getting back. And so I've got a big chunk of my training out of the way before anyone else in the house is awake. And so even if I'm going to do a double that day, it's not too hard to find the extra half hour in the afternoon, because I've got the main run out of the way early without it being too disruptive. And then when you have young kids as well, like you just tend to be operating on like an early to bed, early waking up routine, and so it kind of just works as well. My wife likes going to bed early, so we're a pretty early household, and then that allows me to get enough sleep and still wake up pretty early to get the training in. So but it's a lot of like I said, a lot of give and take. So I make sure over the weekend, for example, Saturday morning, I typically leave my wife to sleep in or do what she wants to do, and I'll hang out with the kids for a while. And then Sunday morning, we sort of flip it where that's probably when I'm going to be out for a longer run. And so she'll hang out with the kids that morning. So just try and make it work for both of us.
Yeah, that makes sense. What time do you normally wind down? Like get to bed?
I try and be in bed by about 9 o'clock. Most of the time. So we try and have the kids asleep somewhere between 7 and 8 o'clock, which means that there's maybe that 1 hour to spend with my wife before we go to bed. So that's usually like cup of tea and whatever we're watching on Netflix, or occasionally we'll do something else, board game, I don't know. But just like usually it's sitting on the couch, cup of tea, and not much else. Having a chat or watching something. And then we're just both keen to get to bed by that stage.
Do you feel like the running gives you a bit of time to reset yourself, like in the morning?
Definitely for me. Like it's a really fun. I absolutely love being a dad. I love my two boys to bits, but it is a hectic time of life. Like you would have heard it from any parents, but yeah, you sort of think back to the time pre-kids and you're like, what did I do with all of that time? I mean, I can't believe, like, well, how did I fill it? I must, I didn't take advantage of it enough, have all these thoughts. But yeah, so there's a lot of truth in that. Life is pretty hectic with little kids, and your waking hours are mostly filled up entirely by just catering to their needs, and making sure that they're well, healthy, alive, and safe, and all of those things. And so it's really great mental health wise to just find something that works for you. And like, this is not even a running point, it's whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But just as a mental health point, generally for me it is running. It's just I've always, like I said, I discovered that as a really young kid, that running just allowed me some, I suppose, that space physically and emotionally to just sort of be with yourself, gather your thoughts, process things going on in life. And so for me, running's always been that, whether I've been taking running seriously or whether it's just something I'm fitting into my life. It just provides that opportunity for reflection, for thinking, for processing. And so as a parent as well, that's super important. And and I try and it's serving a dual purpose for me at the moment. I suppose it's the mental health side of things, which it's always been, but at the moment it has this sort of seriousness and this competitive bit that I'm really enjoying as well. Yeah. So it's great to combine both. I'm sure at some point in life it'll, that some of that competitive side of things will fall away again, and it'll become. But I have no doubt that I'll still probably not quite as many Ks as I do right now. But I think running's just always going to be. Hopefully, it's always going to be something in my life, and hopefully my body allows me to continue doing that to a ripe old age.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it's the same with you guys, but I get so much out of running, and whether or not it's a competitive thing, I'd be doing it anyway, just maybe with less intensity.
Yeah. I think one thing I wonder, obviously, and that's good insight, is when you do have kids, it's like limited on time. But like you're saying, I had a conversation with you a while ago. You're saying you kind of just prioritizing, like you're not sort of going out heaps and that sort of thing. So it makes sense. Otherwise, you can't be doing everything.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, certainly it'd be fair to say that I don't have a particularly active social life, and so that is a trade-off. But for me, that works. And I have to, if I want to take my running sort of semi-seriously as I am at the moment, it means that I have to make good choices about sleep, recovery, eating, sort of those other aspects of life. And so avoid staying up unnecessarily, scrolling social media or watching extra shows, let shows that I might have wanted to watch, just go by and don't worry about it if you don't know what someone's talking about when they bring up the latest show. I love reading as well, for example. Don't get through anywhere near as many books as I'd love to get through, but it's just
find reading.
I managed to, carve out a time. I typically try and carve out a little bit of time at lunchtime to read, particularly on work days, just because I find a nice little break in the middle of the day. Maybe 20-30 minutes, eat some lunch, and then just read a couple chapters of whatever I'm reading. And that's also because I typically find I'm pretty tired by the end of the day, and my concentration often is not up to tackling a book.
I try and read before bed, and it's like...
Once upon a time, I used to love reading before bed, but I typically find if I'm trying to read late in the day now, it's possibly because of, the level of running and exercise I'm doing, but I'm just probably a bit too tired, and it makes it less enjoyable because you're sort of struggling to stay focused. And so I'm finding that lunchtime is a nice solution for me at the moment to get a couple of chapters in, which is really fun because I'm alert and awake during the middle of the day, and it's just nice to just quickly switch off whatever I'm doing work-wise, to just put my mind in something else for a little while and enjoy that, and then get back to work afterwards. So
it's a big difference when I try and do a bit of reading as well. But if you try and, like, especially when you're training, like you're saying, at the end of the day, you're kind of just like, your brain, it's so hard to concentrate on. But in the middle of the day, I have to start doing that again.
Yeah,
It's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I kind of I was a bit annoyed that I was not finding time to read, and so decided to try and just sort of commit to just finding that middle of the day window, and don't do it every day. Things come up at work, I might be really busy, or there's meetings over the top of lunchtime sometimes, and you just roll through. That's all right, but whenever I can, so I just make sure I pack my book every day when I'm at the office, if I can, I'll just go and find a quiet corner, eat my lunch and have a bit of a read. So that's really good. But yeah, as you were saying before, it's like, there's not a lot of social stuff going on too much. It's friends, it's close friends and family. With young kids, you're often doing things that are sort of socializing plus entertaining the kids at the same time. So it's, meeting up with your other friends who have kids in a park, get the takeaway coffees, watch the kids, and keep half an eye on them while you drink coffee and have a catch up with your mate, which is sort of the way you do it. Other than that, I'm probably like deliberately letting other things in life, deprioritizing them, I suppose, in terms of social side of things, certainly. Just so that I can make all the rest of it work with work, life, family, running.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, well, maybe we'll just go into a bit of training. I know we did, again, touch on it before, but like, I'm just keen to hear a bit about how you start, like, how you approach training when you started, and a bit how it's evolved, and then we'll just go over like a typical week or in the training block, particularly in this race. So I mean, in early COVID, it was just starting to run every day, just make it a habit, I suppose. And there was I think for a good little while that I wasn't doing any particular session. How did you get the idea to like start training? Was it just like, oh, I like running? And
it was like, I've always liked running. I had, like, last week I was going to the gym 3 times a week. I was jogging once or twice a week. I was playing basketball on a Thursday night. Suddenly I can't do the basketball. I can't do the 3 gym sessions. Okay, what's left? Guess I'll run a bit more. And literally started. So
then you started jogging.
That was the idea. It was sort of like, well, okay, jogging. There was already a bit of jogging in my life. And everything else fell away. Increase the jogging. Like that was the equation. And so it just went from there. And then, so that was, somewhere mid 2020. And I remember a couple months later, I don't remember exactly how it had happened, but I got the idea that I should run a marathon. And
always just it comes to you.
I had actually, that wasn't even technically my first marathon. I had actually, at some point a few years earlier, 2017, I reckon, had a similar thought with no particular dedicated training or anything like that, and very much still in that phase of life where running was just one sort of small factor of fitness and being active among other sports and activity. And I did but I did do a marathon. I think it was 2017, and off some, like, I look back at what I would have done for that. I've never really looked back at it, but if I did, it would be, just would not resemble anything that you would recommend or sort of suggest to someone attempting. It was
what was the time? The marathon?
I reckon I ran a 3:26.
Okay. Sure, you would have been chuffed with that when you ran it.
I remember it feeling like the hardest thing I'd ever done, for sure. I think I'd probably run a half in, I don't know, low 120s maybe like a...
Oh, okay.
And I'd probably manage to run a half in, say 122, 123, something like that. And a 10K even quicker. And that's just leaning on just natural. The background of running and so it wasn't a particularly great conversion to the marathon based on what I had been able to run, what I had sort of historically just run off decent level of natural fitness and always just having a bit of running in my life. So I just remember it feeling so hard. It was Sydney Marathon, which is tough course anyway. And back then the course was like in reverse to what it is now, and I don't know, it was very windy. You spent a lot of time in Centennial, and then you did it. The end bit was coming through Piedmont and everything, and I just remember that being the biggest sufferfest ever. And it was so kind of that really put me off running, if anything, that marathon experience.
When did you start to feel? What point of the marathon?
It just would have been a classic 30k sort of 30k wall type of thing.
It's so bad.
Yeah, and I distinctly remember that feeling of finishing it and my wife meeting me at the end and just looking at me thinking I look like a ghost. And I remember thinking like, why would I do this? Like, this is not what I like. This is not the running that I thought I loved. And so if anything, that kind of, turned me off running for a while, and it probably turned me off the idea of giving it a serious go. And obviously, as I said, that was 2017, I think. So it took another 3 years. And probably COVID hit at the right time, where by then it had been like enough. I'd forgotten the pain of that enough that it obviously had in 2020, I obviously thought that, okay, I'm ready to give this another go. But then, I think probably some YouTube, things like that. I think I must have started just tuning into a little bit more like running commentary, media, social media I think I was a little bit more dialed in. Okay, if you're going to attempt a marathon, you should have a bit of training structure. There should be sort of, you don't just run 30k a week and then try and wing it on marathon day.
Did you have like much philosophy like growing up? Did you know what your training structure was, and did you learn a bit about how to train?
No, that's really the thing. That's the thing. Right. It was all just so we never had like a dedicated cross country or athletics coach at school. I just went to a public school, and so it wasn't like it was in a system that was really well supported. I never did little A's or anything like that. And so I never knew anything about training for running. It was more just like you get out and do it. It's just something you just walk out your front door and do. And like my parents, they both don't mind a bit of running, but there's no background, there's no structured background to their running either. It's the same sort of thing where there were people who loved doing City to Surf every year for a number of years when they were a bit younger, but it was like, do a few training runs with mates and then turn up to City to Surf and just get it done. And however fast you can. And so, growing up, even though I had some, relative success with a few mates, as I said, at high school level, for example, and as a team, that was all just, we were all like multi-sport athletes, I suppose, where there was a mix of us who did, soccer players, swimmers, whatever, just a couple of us who were just decent at running, and you can manage to wing a 5 or 10k cross country and do all right off like that general fitness. And I think at 5 or 10k, it's not long enough that you're really exposed for not having a good training structure behind you. I think, the marathon, that's what I eventually learned, is that when you tackle a half or particularly a full, you're exposed for not having like a really intentional training program behind you. At least I was. And so, there was never any sort of philosophy. I didn't know anything about training. And so other than like trying to run fast in some runs and run a little bit slow on some other runs, there was nothing. And so, but in 2020, I think something must have clicked, and I must have started tuning into some of the right stuff, and so I started just learning through YouTube, through whatever, that, okay, you should, people actually take this pretty seriously, and they have a training process. There's all these factors that they go into it. Okay, they really break up their training. Like there's every run has a purpose. Some runs are really supposed to be super easy. Some are supposed to be structured and specific. You're supposed to have a long run regularly. Like I was just learning all these things for the first time. It's just sort of, YouTube, read a few books on running.
Do you remember what you read initially?
I remember like Jack Daniels' book. what is it called? It's like Daniel's running formula,
Yeah.
I think it is. That was one. That's the one that sticks out because I've still got that on my Kindle that I occasionally just go back and look at every
It's
now
good
and again.
fundamentals. That
Yeah,
shows you,
yeah. And then there would have been a couple. I don't know if you guys have ever come across what's his name, Seth Demore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
On YouTube.
Yeah, he was in 2020. I don't know. I haven't watched anything of his for a long time. But in 2020, I stumbled across his channel and started tuning in a bit, and I learned a lot.
He was good. Got good energy.
Yeah. And he was a parent as well. I was a
Yeah.
parent at that stage, and
I think
so
he had
just
four
he had a lot of kids.
Yeah.
I remember there being a lot of kids in those
Yeah.
videos.
He's had more now.
Exactly. And so so there must be parts of that that resonate. And I think I was trying to just understand what shoes I should buy as well. And he was big on the shoe reviews too. I think that became part of my education, his YouTube channel. So by the end of 2020, I had done some structured training, and then the one marathon that I found that was running that year because of all the COVID cancellations was the Three Bridges Marathon in, just on Parramatta River, starting in Parramatta Park or something, and up and down up towards like Meadowbank and then back along the other side. And so did that, ran that, came second there in 2:51 after 3 or 4 months of training.
Much better experience.
Much better experience. So whatever I had done, I had obviously built just enough of structure into that few months lead up to that race that I felt mostly pretty good in that marathon. Definitely still struggled a bit in that sort of 35k mark, but it was just a completely different experience to that marathon. That first one I had done 3 years earlier, and so instead of walking away thinking that was the worst thing ever, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
How fun, how cool that I was able to kind of train for something and translate it into like seemingly a decent result.
Yeah.
I'm so keen for more now. From there I learned more, read more, and I think the next year I was working in the CBD at the time for a number of years, and I managed to connect up with the Hertz group. I don't know if you guys have heard of them.
Yeah. I remember when you came to Delta.
Yeah, they've been around forever.
It's kind of like the classic like city workers.
Exactly. So I'm a lawyer, and I was with a firm in the city for a number of years, and so during that time I was still with them, and I think someone I had literally met at the Three Bridges run went to Hertz sessions, and I had connected with this guy on Strava, and I sort of started noticing he was running in the city and seemingly doing some sessions at lunchtime, and I'm thinking, oh, that could be cool. Sometime in 2021 connected with the Hertz group, and that was the first time I'd ever really done any sort of structured training with anyone else. And so started getting along to sessions. They do session days on sort of Tuesday, Thursday in the city. It's all on like a website. It's a really cool system, and their workouts posted to a calendar on the website, and you just check it and find the meeting point and find what the session is and go and join in. And a fantastic group of guys and some women as well, of course, in that group. And good mates with some of them still now, even though I no longer work in the CBD and very rarely go and join them anymore. But that gave me a great environment to sort of continue learning from some very seasoned, very experienced runners in that group. So that was really cool, and I think I progressed well with them for a couple years there, sort of 2021 through to I left the CBD working wise in 2020, like late 2023. So though that sort of 2-year period was any sessions I did with anyone was with the Hertz people, which was really good. And I progressed a lot in my running throughout that. Took an in-house job, work part of an in-house legal team now, which I've done for the last year and a half. And so I'm now based out in Macquarie Park. And so I did that, could no longer train with Hertz. There's enough Delta Hertz crossover that I had been aware of Delta for a good little while. never having done anything with Delta, but certainly aware of them, and I knew people like Lockie Oakes. I mean, Jerome himself gets along to Hertz a fair bit. Nico Roth, Josh Keys, quite a number of people will kind of do a bit of both. And so I knew enough Delta people to know about Tuesday morning Score Hill, to know that was an awesome session, great place to train. And so I sort of had it in my mind to, once I was no longer working in the city, I'm like, I gotta engineer the home situation so that I can get to Tuesday mornings eventually. And it did take a good few months post changing jobs to make it work on the home front, because my wife and I have always sort of split up the home duties of, I would do the kids in the morning, get them up ready, breakfast, dressed, drop them to school, preschool, that sort of thing, and my wife would typically do the collection in the afternoon. And so I needed to sort of coordinate with her to reverse Tuesdays, so that she would do the morning, I would do the afternoon, so that I could get to Gore Hill on a Tuesday morning. So I eventually made that work about halfway through last year, so halfway through 2024. And I reckon it was about June 24. And so and then obviously I've joined the Delta community since then.
I remember when you came for your first session.
Yeah,
we were doing 1K reps, and we were kind of like, who's this guy? Had that push in the front, because I think you were, what were you I can't remember, but I remember we did 1Ks and you were pushing them, and I think you had a really good session where I think that was seven like classic 7 by K sort of thing, where you worked down. Well, it'd be interesting to see the splits actually.
I don't remember what the first session was at Delta, and I didn't know where I'd stack up in the field, but I'm like, all right, we'll just hang with the people at the front and see if that works.
I got dropped massively. But it was good. It was a good group, and I think we got chatting after that. And you pretty much went through that you were with Hertz, but it was a good intro to. It was a good session.
And so I mean, Delta's sort of, I've been obviously great community, be very easily embraced by. I think anyone would be easily embraced by the Delta community, and so it's been a really great space to continue my training, continue the development, and there's some we train with some fantastic people, so it's just a great environment to be in, to continue trying to get better, no matter what level you're at, right? So kind of very grateful that it's all played out that way. It's been a funny journey that I've just taken you on to get to where we are now, but I think it's all happened for a good reason and in a good spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So take us through your, how you approach this block, obviously just coming off Cadbury. Yes, and just in general, how you structure, how you think about the week, what the session structure is, and how you approach the marathon.
So Ballarat, I did Sydney last year, and so I've done the last 2 years, 23 and 24. 23 was the really hot year.
What'd you run that?
I ran 2:41 that day, which was a 10-second PB from 2 years earlier, so I really didn't progress that race the way I had wanted to, because I'd literally run 2:41 back in 2021. So I was pretty disappointed to run the same time again 2 years later.
Tough day.
But it was a very tough day, and I didn't manage the heat too well. And so much more pleasing last year when I managed to run 2:32 at Sydney, which was a good improvement. I had been eyeing off that 2:30, but getting to a 2:32 was a great result still. So I was happy with that. And post Sydney last year, I decided I wanted to do Ballarat. I started hearing about it. It sounded like it was going to be a really cool race, and so had signed up for that. And then I made a really late decision to go down and do Cadbury Marathon as well.
Why did you decide that again? I can't.
Look, there wasn't a lot of great reason for it. One of the biggest reasons was that I had a free, a complimentary domestic return flight voucher to use.
Okay, that's right,
And I'm like, well, this is going to expire in a month's time if I don't use it. And what can I do? All right, let's go to Hobart and run a marathon. And the thinking was sort of, Really there wasn't a lot of thinking, but it was training off the back of Sydney had been going well. I was sort of more focused on the short stuff. I wanted to try and run a little bit faster over like 5K, and I was going to do the 3K as well, which I did. But I ended up just deciding, you know what, why don't I just do this marathon? I haven't done a specific block for it, but let's see what I can run sort of, and almost treat it like a start of the Ballarat block benchmark to see how I can progress over the course of the lead up to Ballarat. And so approached it that way, went down, had a really good experience. I came fourth in the Cadbury race in 2:30, 2:30 and 2:30.50 or something like that. And just so a little bit off the podium. The top three guys went like 2:26, 28 and 29, and ended up basically running that race solo, and it was a pretty measured effort. I ran it fairly evenly. It's a kind of rolling course down there with a real stinging hill at the end, which is a bit tough, but yeah, I was happy with that, and I actually thought that I was like on sub 2:30 pace for most of that run. They have no K markers at all.
Really? Yeah, right.
In Cadbury, which it was tough. So all I had was my watch GPS to go off, and on my watch, I was just under 2:30 pace, like a 2:29 high.
Yeah.
And so I kind of thought for most of the race that I was going to run like a 2:29.50 or something like that. I kind of knew it would be touch and go because your GPS is never accurate, but it turned out it was definitely not accurate, and it was I was a good 250 meters or so away from the finish line when my watch went 42.2.
And it's such a long race, so if it's off a little bit, it just blows out. So I realized, okay, I'm going to run a 2:30, but definitely not a sub 2:30, but I still took a lot away, like really positively from that race, and I thought it was good. I thought I basically had to run it myself, and I felt like I paced it well. The strategy had gone pretty well. It ended up being actually a fairly warm day as well, so I felt like I managed the conditions okay. So I came away from that pretty positive and ready to sort of attack the Ballarat build up, hoping that if I can run the 2:30 on a tougher course, rolling hills, nowhere near as deep of a field, and slightly warmer than I'd expect Ballarat to be, then that's all good signs that I can hopefully go a bit quicker in Ballarat. And so that, I'll be back in 1 second. You guys.
And so that was the thinking, and I went into the start of the Ballarat build, thinking let's see if I can go a minute or two quicker at Ballarat eventually, and there was about 15-16 weeks between Hobart and Ballarat, so a good time to sort of reset from Hobart, week or two of just resetting, recovering, and then get into a good build. And so then the build went really, really well. I think probably best build that I've had for a marathon, where no particular niggles, body was holding up really well all throughout the build. I was able to kind of get to a higher mileage peak than I have managed in the past. I got to sort of a 4-week period of hitting about 150 every week in terms of Ks. So that's the highest I've sort of averaged for a 4-week period. And then obviously taper off before the race, got up to in that sort of meaty bit of the Mara block, that a nice little section where post Port Macquarie actually, did the half there, which again went well. We've talked about that one, and then nice block where I was just feeling good on that higher mileage for me. So was feeling good, and I was taking confidence from being able to manage that high mileage and still feeling okay, feeling fresh, feeling like I could still attack workouts. And so just big picture wise, the block went really well from that perspective. In terms of the slightly more micro or the specifics of a week, I ended up finding a really good rhythm with something that Matt and I Matt Ho, that is, by committee or consensus, we sort of just arrived on this plan of alternating a week structure. And we may have talked about this on the last podcast, but basically a week of, let's do 1 week where we have a specific marathon session on the weekend, and then the next week we'll just do a nice solid long run with no specific mara work in it, and then alternate it that way. And so I ended up, it was almost like a fortnightly cycle. So one week I would do, say, Tuesday delta session, maybe if it was the week that I was going to do a mara session on the weekend, potentially not even do another session between that and the weekend, or do some weeks I would do sort of like, I'd push my MLR onto a Thursday and make that a really honest, decent run, like 25k at like 4-minute pace.
Okay.
Like, so solid, but not a workout per se.
Yeah.
And then do on the Saturday or the Sunday, like the mara specific session. So we did different things. We did like 20 by 500 on, 500 off. We did like a 16k into a park run one week. We obviously had the Port Mac half, which counted as one of our sort of mara sessions, and we did a couple sessions towards the end of the block there, which were things like we did 8-4 one time. So some big nice meaty sessions, but that was only every other week. And so each week in between, it was like, do a time on feet style long run of 2 hours 30, 2 hours 40, 50 even, of just time on feet. Maybe push it towards the end, pick it up, but just a little below 4-minute Ks maybe. No structure there, just time on feet, really long time. And and a lot of those were just at like Lane Cove National Park, so up and down the hills a bit as well. So just let the terrain do the work for you almost. So and then in the week that I had just the time on feet long run, I'd probably do delta, and then like just a comfortable threshold style session on the Thursday or Friday before the long run. So something like, I remember doing like 4 times 9 minutes, 6, 7 times 5 or 6 minutes. I did a lot of those sort of broken threshold style sessions. I remember doing at least 1 or 2 continuous of like maybe 30 minutes continuous over hills or something like that. But some form of, in that off week, doing some form of threshold, either broken or continuous. But not a particularly hard one, deliberately trying to say sort of approaching threshold, definitely not going over threshold.
How are you judging effort? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, because I treat like the delta session on Tuesday as like the opportunity to really like unleash in terms of intensity, and I treat that as the session to really spike the lactate, get up into those high aerobic zones, like sort of approaching VO2 max sort of zone, and use Tuesday as that opportunity. So it means that the Thursday or Friday, I like it to be a deliberately different style of session where it's not approaching those levels. It's much more working in that comfortably hard thresholdy zone. And so I use a lot of that's feel, but I certainly do pay attention to heart rate in those sessions. Don't pay attention to heart rate so much in the delta sessions because the purpose is more deliberately to get into the VO2 max sort of zones. And so it's just push as hard as you can almost sometimes. Just try and hang on, so, if you've got someone like Shivy up in front of me, then just to try and hang on, or something like that. But the purpose there is to like at least in a semi-controlled way, but unleash a little bit and let that be that real stimulus, that real sort of high intensity stimulus. And so I feel like I've covered that. I've checked that box on a Tuesday, and I want Thursday, Friday to be a different stimulus. I want it to be that stimulus is just to raising the aerobic threshold by working in the right zone. And so a lot of it, mostly it's feel, but I have a good gauge of where my heart rate should sit at for those sorts of sessions. And it's, I think my threshold sits right around like 171 or so, or thereabouts. And so I prefer to be sitting on average in that sort of mid 160s area for that style of threshold session. And doesn't matter what the pace comes out as really. I'll be guided more by feeling like it's the right zone some days. And so throughout this build, there was days where I'd be doing it and that heart rate, I'd be running like 3:15s. Then there's days where similar heart rate and I'm running 3:35s. It's like, who knows? I don't know, all sorts of other life factors going on, or whatever it is. And so I'll just be guided more by the heart rate and by the feel.
And that's with a chest strap, or?
That's with the Koros arm strap. So I pretty much wear the Koros armband for every run, just because it seems pretty reliable to me, and it's just such an easy thing to wear compared to a chest strap. So I trust the data that I'm getting from it, even if a chest strap could be maybe a smidge more accurate. It's just the Koros armband stays stable enough that I trust the data. So even if it's accurate or not, it doesn't really matter, because you're benchmarking against the data that you know and you can predict. So that's what even for easy runs, I typically just throw it on, because like I feel like an arm strap, it's like wearing a watch, you barely notice it. So whereas the chest strap, I've always found you definitely notice that you've got it on. And I've always...
It's been uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. Sometimes it flicks off and you've got to try and like awkwardly re-strap it on while you're jogging.
Like
It's
like
different
sometimes. Like
and it fits different at different times as well. So it's like sometimes you have to anyway.
I don't know. Hopefully that's kind of answered the questions. Like as I said, the long run sessions, like there'll be specific sessions on the 1 week. On the other week, I always like long runs, to be pretty honest, even when it's not marathon training season. I like that approach of having a long run that's just, or you treat it like a bit of a session. Like I don't know that I've ever really attempted 3 sessions a week, and so the long run in my head almost is sort of that third session of the week. It's 2 sessions and the long run. If I was trying to fit, particularly some Aussies, they're on that traditional sort of 3 session week where you go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then a long run. I think if you were on that, I would potentially have a different outlook on what the long run intensity should be. But because I've pretty much always done the 2 sessions, it feels like that gives me enough of a license to treat the long run as a bit of a session, and I just enjoy it. It's my favorite run of the week for sure, the long run. And so
it's a dreaded run for a lot of people.
I don't know. It's I love it, just getting out for a couple hours on a Sunday morning. It's just so much fun. I've always loved it, and so and just pushing it a little bit without it getting into that sweet zone where you feel like you're running well, running smoothly, running kind of fast, but it's not too taxing, too. I reckon it's a sweet spot in running, isn't it? Where you feel like, I'm working, but it's manageable, and so it's probably like a zone I like to run in.
Did you have any big challenges in the block, or dips in motivation or anything like that?
Not so much motivation. It's more just a couple of the expected life, logistical, administrative challenges of kids getting unwell, or work getting busy during the week, things like that are sort of, you can't control so much. Mostly things were pretty smooth in this block, which I'm grateful for, but you can't, unfortunately, all of us were working and you're trying to run as well, and you can't control when work gets busy, or when someone in your house gets sick. Thankfully, I don't think I ever managed to I don't think I got sick at all during this block, which is always nice, because that's always a bummer during marathon training, when you a bit sniffly or something like that. Thankfully I managed to stay okay, but I'm sure the kids probably got sick once or twice in there, and my wife as well, she's a bit susceptible to some of those things. And so there's always those challenges, and probably that's all year round though, I think it's just part of managing life and training, right? It was a pretty smooth block. Like, the body held up really well. As I said, I was really happy with how I was able to increase mileage and still feel pretty fresh. So that, from that perspective, that worked out really well, and I'm now eager in the future to sort of even go a bit higher again, just because I feel like that was a successful sort of trial of going a bit higher. So nothing crazy, but for the next marathon, I'll try and just get that sort of 4-week peak a little higher again, and see how we go. But there was good signs from this block, so body held up well. I do think the gym is an important factor in that. So definitely want to keep my gym sessions and make sure I'm hitting the gym once or twice a week at least. So no, thankfully it was a pretty smooth block, with not too much interruption. So, and you can't always get that. So, it's part of what makes the marathon so tricky, but also rewarding, is that there's just so many factors that have to come together for a marathon to come off. And so, who knows if that'll happen again? But I feel like I got as close to as good of a block as you could have wanted. So yeah.
And how did you manage diet during the block? Like, what are your staples, and obviously making sure you're eating enough? Like, how do you do that?
The staple is just eating a lot, I suppose, and trying to be sensible with eating a pretty good diet. I'm not someone, at least in recent years, I'm not someone to crave fast food or too much sweet stuff. So I typically find it easy enough to keep the diet in pretty good stead, but I tend not to overthink it. I think more about just making sure I'm getting enough calories in, and getting enough, particularly enough carbs, enough protein and recovery in. And so it's more about thinking about, am I taking in enough, trusting that the nutrients that are going in are generally going to be okay-ish. Nothing too greasy, nothing too fatty, with the wrong kinds of fats, and trusting. And so it becomes more about, is the right quantity going in, is the right amount of energy going in for the energy requirement on the other side. So it's just, I just deliberately, throughout marathon training, I try and, you eat your 3 main meals, but I basically try and fit in something substantial in between each meal as well. So mid-morning, mid-afternoon, get something, bowl of porridge, for example. The company I work for is a big food manufacturer, and so we always have, they make a lot of bread, and so we always have a lot of bread on site in the head office. And
that's
so
very convenient.
So my mid-afternoon meal is often a few slices of raisin toast or something like that. We make Mighty Soft. And so, there's always plenty of that hanging around, or other bread or wraps or things like that. So there's always plenty of access to carbs in the office. So if I'm at home though, I often do something like porridge, wheat bix, just really simple stuff that takes 2 seconds to put together, but is getting a decent amount of calories in. So I like to just fit that sort of thing in between meals, in between breakfast, lunch, dinner. Have something mid-morning, have something mid-afternoon. And if you're having sort of 5 occasions in the day where I'm taking in a decent amount of calories, then hopefully that's more or less meeting the energy requirements, and I'm taking in enough calories. And I also feel like recently I've been more intentional about taking some protein post sessions as well. And I'm in running sessions, not just gym. So I typically am taking a protein shake with me to Delta, so that I can have it on my car trip to work post Delta session, for example, doing that every week. So small things like that, but mostly it's about those five sort of eating occasions in the day, and then a bit of snacks throughout.
Makes sense. All right, well, I think we can probably get into the race. So you're going into Ballarat feeling good. How long was the taper?
Kind of did maybe a 2.5 week taper, you'd call it. Where still it was a really decent long run. I'm gonna have a quick look here. It was a really decent long run, I think, still 3 weeks out. And then then sort of pretty normal session that Tuesday, and maybe just started to taper a little bit in the back half of that week, 3 to 2 weeks out. And I think I dropped overall mileage by 15% that week or so. So I might have dropped from a 150, which is where I said I got to, and dropped down to a 120, 125 in that in that 3 to
Okay,
2 weeks
okay.
out. So just starting the taper in that first week, and then cutting back to more like 60% in that 2 to 1 week out. And then some really light, easy running the week of the race.
Okay, so pretty aggressive that last week. Like
Yeah. So because 60% of 150 is still like 90k ish somewhere.
Yeah, true.
So it's still a decent amount of running that 1 to 2 weeks out. And then, which I like, it just helps you feel like you're still in routine. Well, not too long of just like waiting around, right?
Yeah.
Which can be annoying.
It can be a long time.
Yeah.
Once you
Totally.
You also get a bit twitchy and a lot of head noise.
yeah.
Exactly. You got to stay out of your own head. Keep those routines going. And then like you say, probably pretty aggressive taper the week of.
And then so what was your plan going into it as well?
Yeah, do you have a goal or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it in my head that I could just sit on 330s, which gives you a 2:27:30. And I sort of had it in my head that pace felt achievable. That was just based off how I felt in sessions and specifically in some of the marathon sessions, and reflecting on how past marathons had gone and how that compares to sort of how I'd been performing in some of the sessions in the lead up, and just putting all of that in my head together, I suppose, and getting the idea that I think I can hold 330s for a marathon, and just sit on that. That did put me in a funny position where I knew there was going to be this big 230 pack.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, I knew there was going to be this big, nice 230 pack, but I had in my head that I think I can go a couple minutes quicker. And so I was, even up until race week, I was still a little bit umming and ahhing about, am I being silly in trying to go like 1 minute ahead of them, like up the road? I'm not sure. Like by halfway, it's not much distance. Like, am I better off just sitting in that pack? And I was still not completely certain about whether it was the right thing to do, but I just decided I was going to run my own race.
Yeah.
I had run Cadbury solo, essentially, just setting my own pace, and I ran a 2:30. So that gave me, and it's a tough course, and so that gave me probably just enough confidence to sort of say, well, I think I can run around that pace, and hopefully a bit quicker on a better course without the benefit of a nice big pack. And so I sort of thought, all right, I'm willing to just go out on my own, hopefully find a few people to run with, but really I just want to try and sit on 330s. So that was basically the plan, going in, hoping that there would be a few people to run with.
And then how did that go? So you were you running with anyone?
Unfortunately I didn't end up running
with anyone.
Unfortunately, I was kind of, possibly if I was more like, if I committed to more like a 2:25 pace, I reckon there would have been a slightly more of a group just up a bit ahead, but it's just, that was too quick. I was not prepared to do that.
Because I know there was another guy, James Penny, crew guy, ran.
He was kind of pushing
2:26. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So he probably was just, or maybe he was in that pack.
Yeah.
But it's just a little bit.
Yeah. So I was
territory.
in that difficult position where I just felt like the pace pack, the 2:30 wasn't quite right. I wanted to try and go a little bit more. But obviously the next pace, the official pace group ahead was to 2:20, which is just completely out of the question. And so, I was just, and I also took a little bit of comfort in knowing that we're being released at the same time as the half guys. And so I was just hoping that there might be a few bodies around because the half. And so anyone running like a, 73, 74 half, I should be able to run with them as well. And so there were a few around. There was a guy, we hit 5Ks and I'd been running with a guy and he's like, all right, we're a quarter of the way through. And I'm like, I'm in the marathon, mate. A bit more to go.
He would have been like, what?
He's like, oh, sorry. So at least in that first half, there was probably a mix of Mara and half Mara people around, and so it did feel like there was enough people around. I wasn't very far in front of the 2:30 pack at times. I think by halfway, I went halfway like 74:10, and I think they were just under 75, so I don't even think I had put a full minute onto them yet by that stage. But I do remember, you go through that turnaround, it's sort of getting back to the start line almost, and then going again for the second lap at Ballarat, and you see all the half marathons be peel off into the finishing chute channel really, and suddenly I'm going back up Sturt Street, and it's there's suddenly no one around. It's the road's suddenly feeling really empty at this point.
And then you start going up that hill. It's like a long hill.
Long, slow, just little gradual hill. And I'm thinking, okay, this could be a lonely second lap. Like it was already felt a little bit lonely on that first lap because I wasn't in a particular group. But that second lap, I'm like, okay, this could be interesting.
How are you feeling at halfway?
I felt really good, which was helpful at that point, because otherwise it could have been a pretty grim prospect to run a second lap with not many people around.
Do you know what the split was?
So I think 74:10, and it felt good. So I wasn't very far in front of the 2:30 guys at that point, and
nutrition was going well as well.
Mostly okay. I had 4 bottles on course that I had handed in, but beforehand I had a couple gels in my pockets as well, and and the bottles were okay. It was the first time I'd used bottles on course, and I reckon I probably should go some smaller bottles next time, just because I didn't even get through half of the liquid that was in there. I had sort of 500 ml bottle. It's probably a bit too big.
Yeah.
And not that I filled it the whole way, but still, I reckon 200 mils is plenty to try and get down in one bottle, 200, 250, something like that.
A lot of people use those little pop
exactly. Yeah. So that's a lesson. And on a coldish day, it was probably tough to get that much liquid in. And after holding the bottle for a K, I'm like, I shouldn't be holding it for this long. Maybe throw it off to the side. So just like, all right, well, there's half a bottle left, but whatever. I'll drop it off here. And so, but they've gone okay. And then I had 4 bottles, and then I think 3 gels mixed in between at different points. And so the gels, I get them down a lot easier. So I'm glad I had them with me, because I just wasn't probably getting through as much of the bottle as I might have thought I would have. But no, nutrition had been going well, and I felt pretty good at that halfway point. And I was thinking the second half was going to be a bit lonely, but I think I'd paced it reasonably well in that first half, and I was feeling pretty strong in the second half. So, and unfortunately, I can't seem to find anywhere that tells me what my position was at half. But I reckon I took 10 to 15 spots at least in the second half of the race in the marathon, which is always a good confidence builder when you're just kind of every K or 2 you're picking someone up and increasing your position. So would love to have known what position I was going through the half in, but don't think they recorded it. So but still that was one really helpful factor, was that there was definitely a bit of carnage, some people blowing up in the second half of the marathon,
as there always
is. And so picking them off, or even the guys who were holding it okay, but I think I'd paced it well, and I ended up running a slight negative split, so I went 74:10, then 73 sort of 45. So just 25 second or so quicker on the second lap around.
And solo as well.
Yeah. And so just having a negative split at all meant that anyone who was even a small positive split, there was a chance to catch them. So that was helpful, motivating to just see the next guy up the field. All right, let's catch him. Then you see the next guy. It's always a nice way to run a race, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then you do run up the back of the marathoners who are still on their first lap as well. At some point, through that second lap, and I reckon that was also in an okay spot where there was not enough of them that it really felt like you were having to weave too much.
Yeah.
And so, but it created a little bit more atmosphere on the course. Didn't feel quite so lonely when you're running through a group of marathoners who was a little bit further back on the course. So that was probably a helpful factor as well. And yeah, that whole second half of the race did, like, it went mostly pretty well, and I was feeling strong and confident. I definitely felt the wind at the sort of 36, 7, 8K mark in the back half of the lake.
Yeah, because
it's tough, yeah.
Even on the first lap, you could feel that. I remember going through being like, this is going to suck on the second lap.
Yeah.
Because it was quite substantial.
It was, and I think it was picking up throughout the day. So by the time the second lap came around, I think we were feeling it a bit more as well. And so, yeah, like it felt like I was battling it, but yeah, again, I think I had paced it well enough that I wasn't dying, and so was ready to tackle the wind a little bit, and did it. I don't think it slowed me too much. And once you finally get off the lake and start heading back towards town, it's a really nice feeling because, well, you know the course at that point, you know exactly how long there is to go. You're at about 39K, so you've got like 3Ks of running or something, but you kind of know where it goes, and you know there's no hill, and if anything, really is a bit of a nice, gentle downhill back into the main area of town before you do that funny little turn back around to get to the start. So by that stage, last couple Ks, I was really like, you know at 38, 39K that, like, if you're feeling good at that point, you're like, okay, I've got this. Like, I can bring this home at that point. And that's how I was feeling. And so ramping it up, and there was still a couple guys ahead of me, and I just thought, let's just see how close I can get to them. Probably ended up getting one or two of them and whatever. But it just, it was enough of a draw to keep me motivated, keep me really dialed in, and get as much out of myself as I could in the last little bit. And then the little negative split there was just enough to get me under the 228 for 227.55, which was really exciting at the finish line, seeing that I was going to just get under that 228 mark.
So you sort of like
I could see the clock, and obviously it's always hard to work out how far away you are, like in real terms. You see the clock and it's ticking down, like, oh, can I do it? And so that was exciting. And my wife and my two sons were sort of on the right near the finish line there, so that's always exciting as well. And them seeing you finish the race, I couldn't spot them exactly, but I knew they were going to be there somewhere, and so it's just always fun.
227's got a good sound.
227, exactly. Even though it wasn't exactly bang on the 227.30, that was like notionally the idea. Well, that's just the factor of staying on 330s. It was really rewarding to kind of go in thinking, I reckon I can run a 227, and then just pulling it off. Because you in your head leading into a marathon, you're always thinking about the best case scenario, and it's rare that you can actually pull it off to that level. And so it was really rewarding to sort of get into that 227 minute range, and sort of feel like I'd achieved what I'd set out to do. So super rewarding experience, really fun to celebrate it with all the Delta team who were down there, and obviously Britt and the kids as well. It was really cool.
Poor Justin had the opposite experience where he just ran over 230
230.01.
Man, that was an incredible run from
Absolutely
Justin.
Incredible run from Justin. He had done a 235 at Sydney, and then to go 230.01, I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying that he's like, I don't know that he's actually broken 75 for a half officially. So to pull off a 230.01 is absolutely incredible running. I told him we were having a great chat right after the race. I was waiting for him, and we're having a good chat. I was just telling him how amazing I think he is at the marathon.
He's probably a talent,
just the conversion is just incredible. Because he'll tell you that he struggles over some of the shorter stuff, but then just to hold on the way he does to a pace is so impressive.
That was huge. Great to see.
Is that the first marathon you've negative split, or?
I don't think so. I reckon I negative split Sydney. That's right. Yeah. So Sydney last year, the 232. that was a negative split by about a minute or so, like a pretty decent negative split. I just kind of that's the race where I would have loved a 2:30 pack, and there just wasn't one. There was, the official pacing was 2:40, and then the elite paces or whatever up the front. And so I just caught in a bit of no man's land on that one, and probably didn't race the first half quite quick enough to give myself a shot of going to 2:30. But ended up bringing that one home reasonably well. Although not as well as Matt Ho, who got me that day.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He negative split it by about a couple minutes, rather than a minute or so. So, and I think I reckon I may have negative split my 2021 marathon in Melbourne, which was a 2:41, which was really good which was a great result for me at the time. And then I mentioned I ran the same time basically 2 years later, not as good.
Well, huge. It was a huge result. Good to see, because I know it's been a long time coming to go under 2:30, even though you were kind of waiting. It seems like you were waiting for this sort of opportunity as well.
At least the last, Sydney, Hobart, and then this one, all of them, I thought there was a shot at 2:30, or a sub 2:30, and so really rewarding to finally make it happen. Sydney, as I just explained, it would have been a big jump to get to sub 2:30 in that Sydney race, considering my previous PB before then was a 2:41 from the year before, but I had progressed a lot. 2:32 I was really happy with. Hobart, as I explained earlier, I kind of thought I was going to break 2:30 on the day because of the watch and everything, and so but got close, and I was really within kicking distance at that point. And so Ballarat, it just felt like it was the time to do it, and really good that I did.
Well done.
Thank you. I feel like I've talked forever. I'm keen to hear about your races.
No, that's all good. I went into it slightly different. Obviously, at the beginning of the block, I was kind of doing another big push for a 2:30, because in Gold Coast, I went for 2:30, went out. It just wasn't the right pace. You sort of you definitely pay for it in the back part of as it starts to get to past 25Ks in Gold Coast, for example. So at the start of the block, I thought I would go towards 2:30. Block was going okay, there was consistency there, but I think when I got sick, I just got a bit of a cold, which dragged on for 2 weeks, and then I don't know, I just sort of had a bit of a dip in motivation a little bit, because you lose a bit of that momentum, and then probably just and then once, for me, sometimes I can tend to really then just lose motivation, and it's hard to get back in that rhythm. So then the last 6 weeks didn't go fantastic from a training point of view, but obviously still wanted to go, and even sometimes tossing up do I still want to race if the goal is moving so far out of reach, sort of thing. But very glad that I didn't do that, and I said because I was going to run with Tobias as well, and we kind of just made this decision to run a 240 target of 245 and just enjoy it, and because I know the fitness was still I still had fitness there, but I hadn't really done a proper long run in the last 6 weeks before the race, so I was kind of worried about that. But went out and just pretty much just stuck on that sort of pace, which was I think it's about 355s, 354 around there. Went out, just stuck into the pace, splits were every 5Ks, make sure that we're just on that pace. Definitely a very different race experience to Gold Coast and Melbourne, the previous marathon, where it was I enjoyed I enjoyed the back part of the race, which is, granted, it's probably a little bit, not getting the most out of myself, but it was fun, and even just getting to that like 30k point where I remember like I was cheering out to. I gave you a yell.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if
yeah.
you remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I love a few of those switchbacks for that reason. It's really
you
exciting
can
to
see everyone.
Yeah, your mates on course. It's really fun.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to see you like charging out front there. I did a lot of yelling. Tobias kind of was like, all right, just like
settle down.
Just calm down. We've got to run this race. And that's kind of the part where, like, if you like, then I was like, oh, I better not get like cocky here because it's like 27 Ks. It's nowhere near the end of the race.
You're still in that period there that it can go either way.
It can go either way. Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that you get to 38k, you're like, okay, I know I've done this at this point. Like 4k, I can manage it. 27 still feels like this. I don't know where this is going.
I was like G'd up because I was seeing people and just like yelling out, and then I was like, okay, as soon as I lock back in, and then when you do make that turnaround, what's that like 30?
Oh yeah, at the end of Sturt Street, like you go through that big
slight
arch
uphill
thing that they have, and then at the end of that, you mean?
Yeah. That's probably,
what was that? Somewhere around 30?
30.
Yes, it was, because I remember 29. I threw a bottle off at 29 or something, and then the turnaround soon after that.
Yeah. So I think even it was funny. It was like I had that yelling fit, and then turned around, and then I actually started feel like it's starting to get serious now. You just have to focus. Yeah. Because you start to get really tired, legs start to get sore, and without those solid long runs, it's gonna if I don't sort of put my head down, it might not end well. So, but I managed to get it. I had bottles out on course as well, and they were like the 250 ml poppers, which were good.
You're smart.
Yeah, no, that's Chris Gatt smart.
Some good intel there.
Yeah.
They're good to run with too. Like
next time.
And then because they were out on course, it was a bit unfortunate for Tobias because I have like on my left side my shoulder's a bit uncoordinated. So like he had to like get the bottle. Poor Tobias had to get the bottles on a few of my.
Did he have his own as well?
Yeah.
So it was double.
Yeah, it was a bit of a disaster. Well, it worked out quite well. We were lucky. Like we managed to get them. Well, I feel like once you got those bottles, you can kind of just relax a little bit, and like they're just a bit more easy to get down for me than gels.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. But I got a good amount of nutrition in. Like I probably had 3 of the bottles, and I had like 4 gels as well. And the bottles are probably, I think they're just a bit more than a gel, like the Morton drink mix. Yeah. 250 mils is probably, so I got a good amount of nutrition in, and then towards the back end of the race, I was probably more stressing at that halfway point because I was like, oh, I'm already sore, but it's kind of like a grind, and you're not like. I'm not running out of power and energy. Got to about where's the lake start? Like that's
so you must start at about 32k on the second lap.
Second lap.
Because you've done the turnaround, then it's another maybe k or 2 to get to the start of the lake where you turn onto it, and then because then 32 7k lake that would put you to 39, and then up roughly there. So. Yeah, maybe about that.
Yeah, I think got to about 34k and was still feeling like okay, and I was like, okay, I think if I get to about this point, I can like just try and completely empty the tank. So I like started to surge, and I think I ran like 340 pace, and then like it just hit me. It was not like. I think I went about a K and was like, okay, this is going to be real tough. Like,
that's probably just about when the headwind was starting to come in as well. So
So then I just like locked into that pace. I think I held about 350s. Yeah. So a bit of a surge, but it was good to not be going backwards. Yes. At that point of the race, just kept pushing. Got to about 3k to go, and like you said, you really it starts to get really tough, but you're like still solid, turning your legs over. Definitely felt it a lot in the last like 4k in terms of like just that like real marathon fatigue sets in. But it was a really good experience. Like I enjoyed it. Tobias and I ran together pretty much the whole way. So that was good. And yeah, like running down the hill was good to like just like, although you're just letting the legs like tick over and almost just pushing to the end. But yeah, really enjoyed it. And I was thinking, I don't know, I might, like after having that experience, I kind of want to run another one, even though I said I'd probably take some time off the marathon. So I'm kind of in two minds, having that positive experience. But I thought the course was good. We got good weather.
Yeah.
Minus a bit of the wind, but
Yeah.
it was good. So yeah, I was happy. Happy
That's
with
awesome.
that. Yeah.
Negative split?
I think so. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. What about you, Don? How did your race go?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, like I think this block was more about just getting back into running. I think last year took a bit of time off, and was just wasn't that keen on running, and then just was like, hang on, like what am I doing? No, I like running.
Got to be reminded sometimes. Yeah.
So like I wasn't super fit coming back into it, and then the idea was to kind of go for that 75-minute mark. But yeah, we drove up to like Foster on Good Friday, like super early, and then we're up there, and I was like, oh, I'm up here now, I may as well try and get some surfing in.
For the race?
Yeah, day before the race. I was like,
The day before, is it? Yeah.
yeah. It was like the biggest waves I've ever seen as well. So
Really?
yeah, it was massive.
I think we were getting some of that back in Sydney even, weren't we?
Yeah,
That weekend.
that weekend was just huge everywhere.
Yeah, because Chris Wallace, who ran Ballarat with us, went in for an ocean water swim that day, and I think regretted it because it messed him up a little bit before the kind of, I think it brought on a bit of sickness or something. Just how crazy so unfortunately set him back a little bit for the for Ballarat. But he showed me the pictures of the waves, thinking like, oh, what have I done? But crazy. That must have been up and down the coast then.
Yeah, I think it was just everywhere. It was huge. So we went to like a spot that like never really gets waves, but there was like actually a little wave there because the swell was that big. And then I was still worrying too about being sick and stuff, so I only surfed. I got like 2 waves, kind of ticked the box and said, I've surfed. Yeah. And then just got up and drove down to Newcastle the next day, and the race didn't start till 9 o'clock, so it was pretty late, and it was like a pretty hot day, and a bit windy, but really good atmosphere, like just people pretty much the whole way cheering, which was really cool. And it was just like 2 10k 10.5k laps.
Oops, yeah.
Which was good. There was like me, Vlad Shatrov, who's like a trail runner.
Yep.
I've run with him a few times, and then there was a little kid, or like a young guy, who's probably like 20.
I'm thinking, who's a 10-year-old running
like the track kids that run?
I know. Running 75-minute pace. So like, oh my gosh.
And there was like a guy who was like a bit more kind of like bulkier. So there's like the 4 of us. The 20-year-old was like off the front by like a long way. He went out really quick. So I thought he's going to win it for sure. And then I felt like the rest of us were all racing for places. But then, we got to halfway, and the kid on the front was like going backwards. He was like, everyone caught back up to him, and then the bulky kind of guy was had taken off a bit and was like down the road, so he was going to win it now. And then it was just me and Vlad running together pretty much the whole way. Like, I didn't lead much of it because it was pretty windy.
Did you just stick behind?
I felt a bit bad about it. I tried to do what I could, but I was struggling. It was like hot and like.
What time was the race again?
9 o'clock.
Yeah, 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
that's late.
It's a late start, yeah.
Yeah. And,
was it hot? Was the weather hot or?
Yeah, I think it was like 27.
Oh wow.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. It was pretty hot. And then it was windy as well. So you go out on this break wall and turn back and come down along the harbour. And there's just headwind pretty much all along there for probably like half the race was headwind. But yeah, it was just me and Vlad, and I think I spoke to Vlad and said like, oh, what's your goal? And he said he's doing UTA miler, so this was just a training run for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, me and him were just running together, which was good. It's like, it's always nice to have someone to work with and keep you honest. Like, I feel like I would have gone backwards a lot without him there.
Yeah.
But we went out probably a bit quick. I went out like it was like 3:25s, and that was just because like I was racing with these guys, and I probably should have slowed down to like 75-minute pace, but I knew it was going to get hard, and was like, oh, this is what the race is doing, I'll just go with it. So yeah, we went backwards quite a bit. Like for the end, I was kind of running like 3:40s and like averaged out at that 75-minute pace. But it was really crowded because the marathon and half marathon were all on the same course. So there's a lot of like weaving, and there was like narrow parts as well, where it was just like a footpath.
So had they let they start the marathon earlier?
Yeah, the marathon started at 7.
Okay.
So yeah, the top marathons were like just finishing before we started.
Right.
But there's still all the slower runners.
So
it was just it was really crowded. And even like coming down the finish straight, I had to like stop pretty much and get around some people. But it was good, and like ended up coming second.
Prize money?
No prize money.
Oh, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, nothing at all.
Really, not even entry the next year.
No.
Oh, wow.
Bit of feedback from the organisers. Come on.
Yeah, no, that's life.
How many people were in the race?
There's a fair few. I think there's like 2,000 maybe.
Okay.
In the half.
Decent, isn't
and like
it?
1,000 in the marathon. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Decent.
There's quite a few people. Yeah. And Newcastle's like lovely. It was really cool town, but the course probably
tricky.
Not ideal. Yeah. Probably wasn't as good as I thought it would be. Yeah.
What's the logic behind the start time, do you think? Maybe with the marathon, was there any logistical reasons or not? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess they want to try and like get as many people off as possible, but kind of tricky, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. But overall, happy with the race.
Overall, happy. Like, that's about as good as I could have gone. Maybe could have changed this or that, but I think I accomplished what I was setting out to achieve, and I didn't go sub 75, but 75 was still good, and I'm giving myself
once.
It's like a
Definitely.
bit of a pattern with marathon, 2:30:06.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's just a number.
That's right.
That's it.
And what do you got? You gonna announce what you got next?
Yeah, so we got like a Gold Coast Marathon, and then also just signed up.
Doing the mara.
Oh, half marathon.
Okay. I was like,
Yeah. So Gold Coast Half Marathon, and then just signed up for Sydney Ultra Marathon, the
Huge.
80k, and then Bondi to Manly again. So.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the solo, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's big. That's big calendar.
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel a bit frustrated with how Sydney Ultra Marathon went last year with Smitty beating me.
Yeah. You don't want me to beat you in a trail race.
And then same with Bondi to Manly getting like second place. It was still great, but like I think I just like to go back and do it all again.
Yeah. Huge.
Yeah.
Well, I think probably gonna have to wrap it up, but I think it's been a great episode. We gotta do it a bit more frequently, Dom.
Yeah.
It's been a while since the last one, but
it's been ages.
What do you got next again, John? What are you going to target?
I think I mentioned I might just jump into Sydney 10 in a few weeks' time, and see how it goes, assuming that the next couple of weeks feel okay. But next big thing on the calendar will be Sydney Marathon. So I'm going back again.
Okay, yeah.
So I
Good
just
one. This year being a major.
That's right. I mean, like they just automatically gave people the option to opt in if you had done it during the candidacy years. So I figured, I'm not planning any overseas trips or anything like that. So
might as well.
Yeah, Sydney second half of the year sounds good. Why not? And first year as a major, they seem to be doing really cool stuff. I really enjoyed Sydney Marathon experience last year. So as to exactly how I approach the race, I'm not sure, like whether it will be like another PB attempt or whether it turns into just a solid run. Kind of got to wait and see, because it is a few marathons that I've backed up in a row now. So I'm okay if this one doesn't turn into an all-out PB attempt. But it may well do still if the block goes, if I kind of get into training and things are going really well. So kind of wait and see on that. But definitely I'll do it either way, assuming that I'm not injured or something. So yeah, that'll be exciting. Sounds like they're doing a lot to get a decent sort of domestic like Aussie field there as well. So if I am feeling good, I'd love to be able to mix it up with some of the the people that they bring in, whoever decides to do Sydney this year. So that's
cool.
Other than that, no city to surf this year, unfortunately. That's the only other thing that I know is off the cards. I've got a wedding away that weekend.
Okay.
So other than that, I'm sure I'll find a couple of the usual races to fit in. I'm interested I don't know when the New South Wales half is this year, because
I haven't heard much about it.
in past years they have done, like, I think that's kind of been that late August. But now that they've brought Sydney Mara to late August, I don't know when that's going to fall. So, because I wouldn't mind finding a half at some point in this year to do. After going really close to breaking 70 at Port Mac.
And it wasn't ideal weather.
Yeah, I'd love to give a sort of a half a crack, but I just don't think I'm going to be able to get up to Gold Coast or something like that. So, we'll see. Sydney Mara is the one that I know is on the calendar. What about you?
Well, I was going to do Gold Coast half, but I think I might do the marathon.
Wow.
Nice.
So what's that from now? Like 10,
It's
11?
not,
Something like that?
I kind of wanted to try and get into a rhythm. I haven't fully I can't have fully committed. But I want to try and run with like Chris and that group in the 240 CAC potentially. I know Nick Zenos as well, another Delta guy, is going to be gunning for that. 240.
Huge.
Yeah. So I think there'll be a good group there. Hopefully, try not to put like too much pressure on it, but still it's going to definitely keep me honest. Still have to train and get into a good rhythm, and so you can't just so I think that's like kind of a good middle ground, rather than trying to go after like 230 again sort of thing. So look, that'll probably be the next race that I'll be focusing on.
Cool.
Which is exciting.
Awesome.
But knowing me, like, my mind changes like the wind, so so we'll see how we go, but that's the plan.
Very nice.
Nice.
But anyway, well, thanks Jono for joining, sharing your story and giving us the recap.
Thanks for having me back, guys.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And until next time.
Till next time.
Thank you.